Hey, what's up everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. Now today I'm going to finally finish this video. This is the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3 breakdown video. So I'm going to break down this fight and what I think, across the board on it. I don't know if you guys have seen my breakdown videos, but they're my more popular videos that I usually get the most views and hits on. My last one, Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders, of the fights that happened, I think I got that breakdown video, I got 1,200 views on that. That's the most I've had so far for any of my videos. The Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko fight from last October, I got over 1,000 views on that as well. So I really do pride myself in doing these videos and breaking them down completely. And I look at everything from all sides. I break down each fighter coming into the fight. What do they have to do to win the fight? If they can win by knockout, if they can win by decision, what the fight means if they win, what for them and for boxing if they win and lose. And then also I give my prediction at the end of the fight. So, heading into this one. Oh, and again, guys, if you guys are looking forward to my podcast, my episode 2, I do apologize that I haven't done that. It's just been very hectic lately. This is the worst time of year in terms of time for me because I work a lot, but also I coach my kids in Little League, and we went undefeated this season, so we just finished our season up. Plus, we got All-Stars coming up, and I'm coaching an All-Star team. So, and I have 2 sons, playing on, our 3 sons playing between 2 different All-Star teams. So it's a lot. But all that being said, let's jump right into this breakdown video. We're going to start first with first let's get the background since this is the 3rd fight. The first fight between Wilder and Fury. Wilder came in the favorite. Fury had only fought once after a 3-year layoff. And, Wilder with his power came in the favorite, and Fury, though, came in, and people were surprised, myself included, that Fury pretty much outboxed and outclassed Wilder for the entire fight. But Wilder did drop Fury twice. Now, that made the fight a little bit closer on the cards, but I still felt Fury won 9 rounds of that fight. I gave him the fight 115 to 111. I thought it was 9 rounds to 3. And I was surprised, and most people were, when it was scored a draw. But on Wilder's side, in all fairness, you can make an argument that, especially the knockdown in the 12th round, that the fight should have been stopped. And the referee almost hit the count of 10. You can make that argument. So they kind of danced around each other, and then 14 months later, they rematched in February of last year, 2020. Now, heading into that one, Wilder was the favorite again because he pretty much almost knocked Fury out the first time. And Wilder had, came in so confident in 2019 and rolled over Dominic Brazil in 1 round, just completely destroyed him. And then fought a rematch he didn't have to fight against Luis Ortiz. And he had the fight with Fury locked up, ready to go. And he didn't have to fight Ortiz in a rematch. It was a dangerous rematch because the first fight was great, and Ortiz almost stopped Wilder before Wilder came back and stopped him. So it was a fight he didn't need to take. He had the fight with Fury already locked up. And then, surprisingly, he laid out Ortiz in more convincing fashion in the rematch. So heading into the rematch with Fury, I was definitely picking Wilder. I had him number 1 in the division. I thought he was going to knock Fury out, but Fury, when I did my video last year, breaking the fight down and giving my prediction, I said the way I think that Fury could win is if he got inside of Wilder's reach and did not let Wilder extend his punches, extend his arms on his punches, and he got inside of Wilder's chest and kind of beat him up and bullied him. If he fought that kind of fight, he could win, but I didn't think he was going to. And Fury did exactly that. He got inside of Wilder's power, inside of that wingspan, and really beat him up, dominated him, and stopped him in the 7th round of that fight, put him down a couple times, and Wilder was just exhausted after. Now, Wilder made a shitload of excuses after that fight about how his legs were shot because of his outfit was weighed too much, how something was in Fury's drink, how Fury, his hands, were exposed and he was getting hit illegally. It was a bunch of excuses. He even went and fired his trainer, who saved his ass, in my opinion, because he was really getting beat up in that fight. He fired him, and got a new trainer. So, all that happened. There was a mandatory third fight in the contract between the two. And, they were trying to get it done, but COVID was going, so the fight kept getting pushed back. Finally, earlier this year, Fury had said, Wilder, actually towards the end of 2020, Wilder for a moment said he didn't want the fight. So Fury decided to move on and try to set up a showdown and undisputed title fight with Anthony Joshua. That was actually almost good to go for August 14th. But then Wilder came out and said he did want to fight. And the fight went to an arbitration. A judge, ruled in favor of Wilder that the rematch had to happen. And that dissolved the undisputed title fight, sadly, between Joshua and Fury. But I'm not sad that this fight is happening, this third fight between these two guys. I think it's a fight they both need. It's a huge fight. Wilder's number 3 in the heavyweight division. Tyson Fury's number 1 for me. And, a third fight makes sense for a couple reasons. Fury, I think he needs this to leave no doubt now. He can shut the book on Deontay Wilder if he beats him again. And it doesn't matter how he beats him. If he outboxes him, gets it and scores a decision, or if he, stops him again, either way, he closes the book and seals the deal on Wilder. And Wilder, on his side, absolutely needs this for redemption. If Wilder wants to prove he's the best, if he wants to go down in history, he needs to come back and score a win here. Maybe it extends their feud. Maybe they set up a fourth fight at some point if Wilder were to pull it off. But in either case, both these guys, in my opinion, need this fight. It's a fight that should happen. So I'm excited to see it. Saturday, July 24th on pay-per-view. It's going to be good. So that's the backstory. Now, let's jump into the actual breakdown of the fight now. And we start with the favorite, Tyson Fury. So, what kind of fight does Fury need to have to beat Deontay Wilder? Well, I think he can fight one of two ways. I think he can box. I think he can sit back and do what he did in the first fight. Leaves himself a little bit more open because Wilder is accurate when he says all he needs is 1 second or 2 seconds and one big punch to end the fight. That's the risk that Fury will take if he does that. If he boxes from the outside. He leaves himself to where Wilder can extend his punches and land something just like he did in the first fight twice. Now, the other option is to do what he did in the rematch and get inside and take away the length and the power of Deontay Wilder by getting on the inside and beating him up. And Fury's the bigger man. I think he needs to do that, but he needs to cautiously do it. I think he needs to jab his way in and throw power punches behind that on his way in. And then once he's in, just make it a brawl and beat up Deontay Wilder again. Leave no doubt. And that's the kind of style I think he needs to do. He needs to just take a page out of his own book and do it again. Now that's, Wilder might come out different, and might try to fend that off. But I don't know how long he's going to be able to. Fury is very smart. I think Fury, if he can figure out a combination of staying back if Wilder's overly aggressive at first and then working his way in and landing those big shots, I think he can be very successful in winning this fight. Now, can he win by knockout? Well, we've already seen that he can win by knockout. He gets in there and beats him up. He can stop him in the middle rounds. I think if he does that, it's probably going to be middle to later rounds because he's going to wear him down. Can he win a decision? Well, he should be able to win a decision. He's the better boxer. If this goes to 12 rounds, I'd be very surprised if Deontay Wilder wins. So I absolutely think Tyson Fury can win this fight by a decision. 1 second. Excuse me. So now, the next question. What does it mean for Tyson Fury if he wins this fight? Well, he cements himself as the number 1 heavyweight. I mean, he's already number 1. Some can argue Anthony Joshua, but I think if he leaves no doubt against the power punching Deontay Wilder, beats him again, and leaves no doubt. He remains number one in the world without question. So it means a lot. It cements everything. Like, hey, I told you guys I was better. I've done it 3 times now. I deserved a decision in the first fight. I came back and knocked him out in the second fight. Whatever way he wins in the third fight, as long as it's convincing, which I would expect it to be, I've left no doubt. So, even if he were to win a close fight and it wasn't as convincing, just the fact that most people feel he won most of all 3 fights, I think cements that for him. So a win is big. What does it mean for boxing if Tyson Fury wins? Well, I mean, it's good for boxing either way, in my opinion. If he wins, we can look down the road towards an undisputed title fight with Anthony Joshua, likely. And Tyson Fury is a flashy guy. He's from another country, so he doesn't just bring in the American audience, he brings in everybody. And he's just got that, that bravado, and sells fights really well. So he talks a lot of shit, sells a lot of fights, and it's good for boxing if Fury wins. Now, what does it mean for boxing if Fury, or what does it mean for Fury if he loses? It depends. This would be his first career defeat. Depends on how he were to lose. If he were to just get caught with a shot after winning most of the fight, okay, whatever, he could set up a 4th fight. I don't think it would hurt him too much. I think he'd come back for the money of a 4th fight and the chance of, what that would mean, no big deal. But if he were to go out and get blasted out of there early and quick to where most people are saying there's no need for a 4th fight, it would be bad for him. He'd have to work his way back up, which wouldn't take him that long because he's a big name. He can sell a fight, but where would his confidence be? How would that be? So, yeah, it's going to be bad, but he's a great fighter. There's no doubt in that. He can bounce right back, but after your first defeat, especially if it's after a big knockout, how quick is he going to be willing to come back and shake off that loss? So, yeah, it's going to be tough for a loss for him. What does it mean for boxing if Tyson Fury loses? You know what? I don't think it's bad for boxing if either guy loses this fight. I think it's worse for Wilder, but we'll get into that. But for Fury, I don't think it's going to be as bad because he hasn't lost before. And this would pretty much just even up. If he were to lose, it would just even up this rivalry right here. And then the 4th fight can be the end-all, be-all between the two. And so I don't think it's the worst thing for boxing if that happens. I think it'd be good for boxing. Actually good, because there's the potential of the 4th fight and Fury bouncing back from a defeat. Wilder's lost 1, Joshua's lost 1, and Fury could come back after losing 1. They both Joshua and Wilder, if he were to beat Fury, would have proven that they can shake off a loss and get a rematch and win. And it just sets up more of the rivalry right there. So not the worst thing for boxing or Fury if he were to lose to Wilder. Now let's switch over to the underdog, the former longtime WBC champion Deontay Wilder. So what does he need to do to win this fight? It's interesting. I don't think he needs to wait to see what Fury does. He cannot make that mistake. Fury is too smart and too good. And if he does that, I think it's going to be detrimental to him. It really is. What I believe Wilder needs to do, no matter what style Fury puts into play, if Fury decides to box and stay away, he needs to come at him by throwing his jab first and setting up those power punches. He has lightning in both hands. He knocked Fury down with both hands in the first fight. This guy is explosive. Now, set it up with both hands, and then it makes your right hand more of a phantom punch that he doesn't see coming later. But he's got to use his jab to work his way in. Now, if Fury decides to come at him and come forward and try to get inside, he needs to use his angles and lateral movement and throw his jab to keep Fury away and back. Throw his jab and then follow up with the right hand, or a hook. Throw the jab, 1, 2, 3 maybe, hook off of that jab, and then set up the right hand. He needs to keep Fury off the inside so he can extend those punches. I think the jab for Deontay Wilder, if he uses it and can utilize it effectively, I think it could be the saving grace and the thing that gets him some redemption. So he needs to use his jab no matter what Tyson Fury does. He doesn't need to come out like a madman and leave himself open, because Fury is a big guy and he's got power. He does not need to do that. I think he needs to set himself up and really be in great shape. He needs to have the stamina for 12 rounds, because if his power is on, he can end the fight at any moment. And I hope he has the confidence to give it his all in this fight. So that's what I think he needs to do. Now, can Wilder win this fight by knockout? Absolutely. Wilder has maybe the most power I've ever seen ever in my life. The guy is explosive. He can win by knockout at any moment of the fight. And he's the first guy I've ever said that about, that he doesn't even need to know how to box very well. He just needs to land one big punch. And he's got the perfect kind of body frame for it, because he's so tall and lengthy that he can hit, from any angle. So yes, he definitely can win this fight by knockout. Can he win by decision? I mean, with bad judging, I guess so. I don't think if the fight goes 12, I wouldn't favor him to win this fight. I would not favor it to go his way. I think Fury's just too good of a boxer. But given the fact that the judges fucking gave him a draw in the first fight, you never know. But I really don't think he should win a decision over Tyson Fury, just based on their boxing ability and skill. But hey, again, you never know. Now, what does it mean for Deontay Wilder if he wins this fight? It means everything for him. If Wilder wins this fight, he is back on top of the division. He can set up the fight with Anthony Joshua. He can get a fourth fight with Tyson Fury, and he's a top dog, and he's still in the mix. So it means everything, in my opinion, to be his career best win, to get redemption on Tyson Fury, regain his world title, and it would be huge. So this fight means everything if he wins it. What does it mean for boxing if he wins the fight? It means a lot for boxing too. Deontay Wilder is very good for boxing. He's got that showmanship, talk shit. There's a lot of people that hate him. There's a lot of people that love him, and his kind of power is why we fell in love with Mike Tyson, So Deontay Wilder is great for boxing, and if he wins, he's right back in the driver's seat. He's an American running the show, and that's really what is going to tune American fight fans in. But it also, for boxing, is going to set up possibly a fourth fight with Tyson Fury that people would pay for and want to see. Set up an undisputed title fight with Anthony Joshua. It's big, big, big for Deontay Wilder and for boxing if he wins this fight. What does it mean for Wilder if he loses this fight? Now this one, it's going to be bad for Deontay Wilder if he loses. Because if Tyson Fury beats him convincingly, and let's say Tyson Fury knocks him out again, to tell you the truth, Wilder's like 34, 35. That might be all she wrote for him. I mean, I'm not favoring that he's even thinking about retirement, but if he were to lose to Tyson Fury again, man, that'd be tough. That'd be a tough thing for him to bounce back from. I really believe that. I don't know if he retires or not, and with his kind of power, he can compete with anybody. But if he loses this fight, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be very tough for him, and not sure how he bounces back, but he definitely would not be taken seriously as the top dog in the yard, and a fourth fight, if Tyson Fury goes on to beat Anthony Joshua, he doesn't really have a direction to go, because why would Fury fight him again? He wouldn't need to at that point. So this is very, very big for Deontay Wilder to win this fight. So a loss would be devastating to him. What would a loss mean to boxing? It would be tougher on boxing if Wilder loses. I mean, either way, it's good for boxing, whoever wins this fight. But if Wilder loses, you kind of take your third piece of the three kings off the table, in the mix. Right now, the heavyweight division is sexy because you have the three trees and the three kings sitting there. Even Deontay Wilder, after the loss, he's still considered to be that threat, because it was only the one loss to Tyson Fury. It's Fury, it's Joshua, and it's Wilder. But if he loses if for boxing, you take that third piece, kind of push him back. And it really just comes down to Fury and Joshua, which, hey, that's not a bad matchup. But Wilder, because of his style, because of his power, you know, what he brings to the table in terms of selling a fight, you know, it does hurt boxing a little bit, you know. So it definitely would be devastating for Wilder, and not devastating to boxing. It just wouldn't be as good for boxing if Wilder loses. Now, the final piece, the final question: who do I think is going to win this fight? To be honest with you, I've bet against Tyson Fury in all three of his major fights, against Vladimir Klitschko and against Deontay Wilder both times. Now, I will mention that I believe he's going into this fight with a different mentality, that he's the favorite finally. He was the underdog in all three of those fights, and he surprised people in all three. When you're the favorite, you can definitely come in overconfident. Is he looking forward to Anthony Joshua? I don't know, but if he comes in overconfident, I think he could get stopped. But unless he changes his game plan and his style, I think he's definitely the favorite for a reason. And to be honest, until Wilder beats him now, after what I've seen in 2 fights, outside of the couple knockdowns by Wilder, I have seen 19 rounds of Tyson Fury outboxing and dominating Deontay Wilder. And I think he can do it again. And until Wilder beats him, I'm going to pick Tyson Fury to win. So I'm going with Tyson Fury. I think he's going to break Wilder down. I think he's going to stop him in the later rounds and leave no doubt that he's the better man. I can see it going to a decision where I think Fury wins a convincing decision and closes the door on Deontay Wilder. But I think Deontay Wilder, with his power, is a very live underdog. I just think Fury took his heart and soul, and you saw what he did. I think he's desperate, Wilder is, to erase that. And because he has that blitzing kind of power, he's hoping that he lands that big punch, that it presents itself to lay out Tyson Fury. But I don't think he's confident outside of his power. I don't think he's confident in his ability to beat Tyson Fury. But I think it's a fight that he felt he had to take to erase that loss. And it's showing a lot of balls, but I'm not sure if he's confident to win. I watched an interview with him. I don't know if I see confidence in Deontay Wilder or fear behind those eyes. So we're going to see what happens Saturday, July 24th on pay-per-view. I'm picking Tyson Fury, but it really could go either way. It really could, and it wouldn't be bad if it did. So make sure you're tuning in. It's going to be a big one. Fury versus Wilder 3 for the WBC heavyweight title. I hope you guys enjoyed this. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.